welcome to another episode of Infrastructure Matters. I'm your host for today, Steven Dickens, and I'm joined as always by Krista Macomber and Camberley Bates. Hello and welcome. How are you, ladies?
Yeah, we're hanging in there, ready for another one.
Ready for another one, for sure.
Another packed week in tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
As always.
Oh, as always. So we've got a packed show for you today. We're going to dive straight in here. I spent some time with Amazon and their AI team yesterday. Lots of mainstream media press coverage about some stuff that they're doing in retail, so I'll cover that. We've got the Mainframe 60th birthday coming up this weekend. We're recording on the 5th of April. So the birthday's on the 7th, and I think I can do some celebrations.
Awesome.
So we'll do that, and we'll goof around. We've got a MemCon, and we've got some updates from around DSPM/DP. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure I'll get smarter at some point during this podcast. And then Rubrik's IPO. So I'll go first. This week, the Bloomberg covered some announcements that Amazon were making about smart carts and their just walkout technology. There was one phrase in that Bloomberg article, one sentence that's kicked off a whole media storm. And I spent some time on a scheduled briefing and then got opportunity to engage with John Jenkins, who also runs Just Walkout technology for Amazon this week, to really just understand it, because when I saw this break, it just didn't make sense to me. The key sentence in the Bloomberg article was that Amazon had 1,000 people in India watching live video to be able to augment the AI in the Just Walkout technology. It didn't jibe with me as soon as I read it. That comment's been picked up and just gone viral. I've seen it on social. I've seen it in a number of articles. So instantly I reached out to the AR team. Fortunately, I was with Amazon yesterday down in New York on the 4th of April, spending time with them, getting an analyst briefing for the day on AI. So I got opportunities to speak to Dr. Matt Wood, who's the VP over there for AI. They connected me with John Jenkins as well, who's the actual VP for Just Walkout. And I've got a research note that will publish that we'll put in the show notes. But Amazon is committed to Just Walkout technology. What they're seeing is a bifurcation of how people shop, which makes sense. You know, I spent some time talking to Matt around the sort of small form factor store where people go in. They in the city, and I've done this in New York. You go in, you want to grab a sandwich, you want a pack of chips, you want a soda. You kind of grab those three things and you walk out, and it's a fantastic experience. Then obviously Amazon's got larger format stores. They've obviously got I'm drawing a blank, Whole Foods as a form factor as well. Those are longer shopping experiences. People are doing a lot more consideration. They're kind of walking around. They're sort of moving around the store differently. So dash carts and Just Walkout are going to be part of Amazon's strategy. I asked Matt specifically about the comment that was in the Bloomberg article. He wouldn't commit to the size of the team they have in India, but they're doing training. Key for AI is you've got to be able to look at a whole bunch of material, and then you've got to be able, especially in computer vision use cases for AI, which this obviously is, you've got to be able to go, yes, that person put something in their basket. No, that person didn't put it in their basket. You've got to train the AI models, and in some cases that's a people-based training. And I think that's what's going on here. It's been misunderstood by a tech reporter and a bunch of tech reporters in the mainstream press that really don't understand the mechanics of how you train an AI model.
This is interesting. We have been working on a project with Dell on proof of concepts for multiple industry environments, and that has to do with training. And one of the ones that we've been working on is retail. I think we're close to getting the paper published. It's not out yet, but we also worked on manufacturing and digital twins and a bunch of others. But so I've been watching on a weekly call for the last, I don't know how many months, as we've been going through this proof of concept, which is not nowhere near about what you're talking about doing with the AI in the store. My applause to Amazon, and I'm not the hugest fan of Amazon all the time. So this is a big deal. My husband would know this. My applause to them is recognizing the difference between how we shop. And also the difficulties in doing that. It's a really super amount of training to do, because I'm thinking about when I'm pushing the cart through, I'm taking something out, maybe I put something back in, and all that registration to be able to understand what it is. And then also when you have when you've got it stacked like that, you can't just walk out the door, right? Because maybe you could, but recognizing everything that's in the basket. So really fascinating piece of work.
Have you tried a Just Walk Out store? Have you tried one? Because they are fun. It is.
I haven't even been in one. Actually, I have been in one. I was in one that was all kinds of various variations of books, and like a typical Amazon store with books and gadgets and whatever. It wasn't the shopping kind of thing. I have not been in one of those, and yeah. And I'm wondering if that would help with the theft problem, because and here is an interesting piece. Because I was robbed at a Whole Foods 15 years ago. And
sorry to hear that.
They just, I just walk in and not even thinking about leaving my purse in the basket. And somebody just came, my back was turned. I was getting whatever, green beans or whatever. Somebody came, probably just picked up it. And I didn't realize it until I was at the checkout. It was like, where is it? And as I went through the process, they said, yeah, this is a common place that they target because it's a higher end people or whatever. The being in that kind of store, your boundaries are down because it's Whole Foods, it's protected, it's nice people, and so your boundaries are down. So they do have, especially in Boulder, which is one of the top stores in the nation. They do have the police that are there, or the security people that are always walking around. So I'm wondering if that is also going to help address some of that problem that happens.
Yeah, for sure. Krista, have you tried a Just Walk Out?
I have not, but I love the premise. I am the type of person that if I can go through the self-scan at the grocery store, I am there all day long. So I love the premise, but we don't have one quite near me. Although I will be out in San Francisco next week, so I'll have to keep my eye out. Maybe there'll be an opportunity to give it a shot out there.
Yeah, I was in a Whole Foods the other day, and it was one of the stores where they've launched the palm scanning technology. I don't know whether you've seen this, but again, Amazon retail team sort of innovating. Literally, your checkout experience is a palm scan. So you just put your little scanner on the point of sale. You just put your palm on, bang. It's doing fingerprint recognition, obviously, and it was a checkout. I was chatting to the lady while I was checking out how many people, and she's like, having a whole bunch of people sign up, because it's that kind of everything's going on. You're trying to pack your bag, your purse or your wallet is in the pocket. You're kind of trying to sort of scramble at the till, and there's people behind you. You've maybe got kids with you. So just being able to put your hand. So I think some fantastic innovation from the team there.
Yeah.
But
so I know you wanted to go into the mainframe, but I'd like to drop into MemCon because it's
let's do that first, so it's not me doing my subjects.
Because it hops over to the AI piece of it we're talking about here. So MemCon is about memory. Who cares about memory? The AI people
we
care about memory.
And Infrastructure Matters would be a really good name for a podcast.
Yes, it would be. So MemCon is it's a little bit of a small conference. It's done by a private organization, very well attended by a bunch of tech people, PhDs out the yin yang. You have people like Netflix and Facebook, I think was there. Meta was there last year. Google's been there. Some of the lab people like the national labs like Livermore and those folks are there. And the reason why are they there? Why do they care about memory is because memory right now is the bottleneck that we have within high performance computing and AI, and we can't seem to get what we've talked about for many years is this issue about the memory wall, where the memory capabilities of getting memory to CPU has not kept up with the CPU power. And the same thing is with the GPUs. They are very, very hungry for this in order to use. So you had, I think it was the guy from Netflix talked about all the gyrations and methodologies they're using to get around this problem. And so the conversation is about what are we doing in this area? And there's two big technologies they were talking about. One is HBM, high bandwidth memory, and the other one is CXL. Last year we were talking a lot about CXL, which is more or less a switch that it's kind of like SAN. What we're doing is pooling memory to be able to feed to multiple CPUs at the same time. So there's about there's version 1, version 2, version 3 of the CXL capabilities out there. But suffice it to say, it's different methodologies to be able to pool memory and be able to feed both the GPU and the CPU market. What really came out of there is the first and foremost is high bandwidth. And high bandwidth, what they're doing is they're stacking. So, today they've got 4 stacks, they're going to 8 stacks, and there will be problems as we get to higher stacked areas because of the signal times going in between them. So they're wondering how far we can actually go with that before that starts to break down with it. Also, high bandwidth memory tends to be, obviously, they're going to charge more for that, and where the cost benefit is. The other technology that was introduced that was pretty darn fascinating, and we're going to dig into this more, is a company called Cove, K-O-V-E. And Jonathan Overton talked about this there. It virtualizes memory. Think about VMware virtualizing CPUs, servers. He's talking about virtualizing memory and saying this can scale. So there was a lot of kind of skepticism about him. He's been around for quite some time perfecting this. It appears that it has really been, there's some big companies that have been implemented. So expect to hear more from us on this one as we dig into, another technology there that can hit into the memory space. So pretty interesting. Samsung was I'll give a call out to them. They're a big sponsor there. They are releasing their new CXL. So CXL, if you have, we have the triangle for the storage hierarchy or the data hierarchy, and you've got, you got DRAM, you got HBM. CXL is kind of that layer between the HBM and the next solid state drive in terms of speed and access. And so we're looking forward to that. It's not going to address the training issues, which is very obvious. They're saying this is not, and this is why I'm getting back to what you're doing. It's not going to address all the trainings that we have, but it will address some of the other applications that are really eaters of memory, and that would be in-memory databases in particular. Is one of the biggest ones that those areas are going to address. So that's kind of what came out of that group. Samsung is releasing their CXL offerings. Expect that to pick up. We didn't talk as much about CXL because the sexy stuff right now is AI, right? And
So Camberley, is the right way to think about this is AI is raising all boats. It's a rising tide raises all boats, and that's coming through the GPU, the CPU, the memory, all of the infrastructure stack. I'm not a memory guy, but I can see that kind of would be what you're saying. Is that the simplest way
did you
to look at it?
read my post this morning or something?
Oh, of course. It will be it was the first thing I did when I woke up.
Okay. So my post this morning is I reposted something that Daniel was on the news today. I think it was Bloomberg or CNBC or something like that, talking about semiconductors. And what I was saying is that here is the pattern of what's going to raise all boats. You got GPU to CPU to memory to networking and to data, and the data storage. And the data storage is the last one I'll make. And that was the other point that I was going to make today, was what we've seen just recently. I'm literally the last 30 days or so, and I believe it was Samsung as well that talked about this and published about this, about the demand for their solid state drives has kicked up, and significantly kicked up. And also what we're going to see is a rise in prices, just like we've seen a rise in price in memory. We're going to see a rise in price in solid state drives. Is that AI? Maybe. Is that an energy efficiency problem where we're having to swap out hard drives for solid state? Maybe. More to see.
Fantastic. We'll go to you next, Krista. Rubrik announced their IPO this week, or announced that they're planning to IPO with their S1. I saw that picked up. I didn't get to track it, but that's why we have a fantastic team on the. So tell us about what Rubrik's think.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So this is something that, we've been, as an industry, expecting for some time now. So it was interesting to get the actual filing. There was some buzz around the net losses that Rubrik has been reporting. So they had 354 million for their year end. That was back in January, the end of January of this year, and that was actually an increase from just under 280 million in the year before. So I saw a little bit of buzz around that, just when we think about Rubrik in the context of, kind of cybersecurity companies. Certainly it's a large net loss. Now, that being said, certainly not unexpected, considering the investment that not only Rubrik, but all of its peers really in the kind of data protection and data management space are having to make to kind of broaden and evolve their capabilities to address things like, growing cyber threats. So that is, for example, Rubrik made an acquisition of a company called Laminar towards the end of last summer. They provide what we call data security posture management, which effectively is going beyond Rubrik's core capabilities in areas like data discovery and classification to be able to actually, for example, identify misconfigurations, other threats and vulnerabilities, so that way IT and security teams can address them. So long-winded way of saying it gave us, kind of a little bit more insight. They have not yet actually filed. We're thinking maybe that will happen at some point next week. But just another interesting comment is that when we think about data protection companies, I can't even think of the last time that a data protection company, went IPO. We had Cohesity was potentially a contender, but now they're acquiring, assets from Veritas. So we would kind of expect for that deal to kind of go through before potentially, if that combined company did choose to go public. So it's, another, kind of component that makes the announcement interesting. And I would really say just kind of underscores the focus and the emphasis on cyber resiliency, that we're having today.
I mean, is this the likes of Rubrik, Veeam, Cohesity just becoming hot because of the pivot from data protection to cybersecurity? I mean, that's some of this pivot I see going on. Data protection was backup. We've been doing that for years. I see the whole sector sort of moving more to a security perspective. Is that a right way to simplify it?
I think it is. And in fact, just yesterday, I recorded a fun podcast with our tech field day team because we're all going to be at security field day next week. And the premise of the podcast was cyber resiliency is just data protection. And of course, that's not that is not true. It was kind of our premise to just kind of start some discussion and kind of get some eyeballs on the podcast. But we were talking about the fact that data protection plays an important role in being resilient against cyber attacks. But when we think about data backup, data recovery, replication, it goes much further beyond that. So I kind of talked about data security posture management and the ability to be more proactive and identify, threats so that hopefully you can prevent an attack from occurring. We also have capabilities being introduced into data protection software that can detect anomalous user behavior or file activity that might indicate that there is an attack that's going on. So it's, we are definitely seeing that, data protection plays an important role. But again, it's certainly going beyond strictly, the recoverability of the data itself.
And we had the conversation yesterday, Krista, about the speed of recoverability, and the issue about how fast can you get back up and running, and that has a lot of different implications. If anybody read the recent article on MGM and what they went through and that entire fiasco that happened over there. But if you really kind of start looking at what the CEO, they ended up doing, they didn't pay money out. And whereas other people in Vegas did pay money out on this, at least didn't pay money to the ransomware people, they paid other people, but in terms of the gambling. But the big thing is, taking those servers, having to completely rebuild the servers all the way back up. And then making sure that you've got a known good place to come back in, and where is that known good place to come back in, and how fast can you come back in. So it is it's a village of IT people to get things back up. It's not one discipline. There's no single discipline, and that gets back to what you were saying, is that it's the reason why we've seen this uptick is because of cybersecurity, but because all of those teams have to come together and work well together to bring a company back to status.
They really do. And just another comment on the recoverability, absolutely speed, but also having the insight and the context into not only what systems and data were impacted, but what ones are critical to business services, and which data is most sensitive that has been impacted, right? Because it's that way we can kind of prioritize the recovery processes and kind of be more informed from that perspective.
So the final topic here, and one dear to my heart, is Mainframe's 60th anniversary. I'll do my sort of thumbs up to get the celebration going. We've recorded with a bunch of the senior leaders a whole bunch of thought leadership videos that talk about the platform and where it's going. That'll air on Monday, the 8th of April. Don't know when you're watching this show, but you'll be able to check that out. If you just Google for Mainframe Mini Summit and Futurum, you'll find us there. But really just an opportunity to take a moment, reflect on this platform and what's been going on. The mainframe, one of those foundational pieces of technology in probably 5,000 plus enterprises globally now. Foundational technology that supports our credit cards, it supports retailers, flight bookings, a lot of your banks. The IRS uses it. A lot of tax departments around the world use this platform. Really huge platform that's been able to continue to innovate, continue to grow and evolve. The Telum processor was the first to get to 7 nanometers. It's got AI acceleration, cryptographic processing, quantum safe cryptography. So we're not talking about a historical platform here. We're talking about a platform that's really able to continue to be on the bleeding edge of innovation. So I'll kind of pause because, as anybody knows, I could talk about this for hours.
So I was reflecting on that because I started my career with the mainframe, and I'm older than you. So there you go.
Our listeners and viewers won't believe that to be true, but it technically is.
It is. I started my career with mainframe and IBM in the mainframe division. So I have a warm heart for that. But as I was thinking about 60 years and what it survived, Sun Microsystems, they're still out there, but they're not being sold. You had DEC out there, but not being sold. IBM System 36, no longer. IBM Series 1, I don't think it's out there anymore. And you look at some of the other minis computers or other computers that were developed, Burroughs, Unisys, AMDAL. All of those are gone. They're all gone. And what we have now, all of those were replaced by x86 or whatever. And customers did say, the mainframe is dead, all that kind of stuff in the 90s. And even into the 2000s, we basically said that. And customers were diligently trying to get off that system. And yet today, that box is growing in terms of size. And
they said 16 cycles, the best they've had in decades.
And you got to ask yourself, why? Is it because it was so hard to get off, they couldn't possibly get off, but they could get off the others? So that, to me, that doesn't hold about why it's still there. And I believe the reason why it's still there is because it is such a hardened system. It is, in terms of when you look at IBM research, the first research capabilities that come out usually come out on the mainframe, and then they trickle down into some of the other stuff that IBM has, whether it's the storage or the there's I just took a brain on power. Thank you. Their power. I'm going risk. This is like, geez, Camberley, you're so far back. Trickles back into those things. So it is in testament to that crew. And I know you were involved with the Linux one, so that actually took it to a new world. And then they've also been heavily investing in the people. And the people's skills, and bringing in Gen Z and millennials and all that kind of stuff to be able to, as we see these people retire, i.e. Randy Kearns, 50 years in, he's done. He's not doing that anymore. So a next generation has to come in. So I'll stop my waxing on about my love for the mainframe as well. So.
Yeah, this is a love in here. But no, I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, probably after the event. Now, we record this on Fridays and it publishes the week after. But I think certainly check out our content. There's plenty to be looking at there. There's probably, I think, 2 or 3 hours worth of chatting to thought leaders about where the platform's going. We're not taking that retrospective look back.
Okay.
But we are certainly taking a forward-looking view of where the significance of the platform and where it fits. So recommend you check that out. We'll put that in the show notes. So packed show this week, as always. Pleasure to talk to you both. You've been watching the Infrastructure Matters podcast, where every week we talk about all the big news and insights that are coming from the world of technology. Please click and subscribe and do all those things to make sure this show continues to be one of the highest ranked around the technology space. Thank you to all our listeners, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.